This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
During Lowe's Pro Savings Days, the job works in your favor. My Lowe's Pro Rewards members buy more and save more on the materials they rely on every day. Get up to 25% off select molding when you spend $1,000 or more, and up to 25% off Pergo Evercraft laminate flooring. Put Pro Savings Days to work for you. Members get more at Lowe's. Valid through 3/27. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Visit the Pro Desk or Lowes.com/terms for more details. Subject to change.
This episode is brought to you by Welch's Fruit Snacks. Big news for your kids' lunchbox. Welch's Fruit Snacks are now made without any artificial dyes. A snack parents can feel good about, and the same delicious taste kids can't get enough of. All made with no artificial dyes. Try Welch's Fruit Snacks today.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game with me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire. I might have said beautiful dame there, Kieran, and it kind of not.
Well, we've just been talking about Dame Tracy Crouch, haven't we, before the show? Perhaps subliminally.
It could subliminally be the reason why I said that. Yes, it could be that you counted me down very quietly in a kind of cross between a 50s musical and Zippy from Rainbow, which distracted me. And you're also finishing off a sausage and bean roll.
Yes.
Which is, again, that's how much you're multitasking at the moment. You're up against the clock. You're doing all sorts of things at a time. How are you, Kieran? How are you recovered from your Sophie Ellis Baxter? Have you washed? That's the important thing. Since you,
I got a text message from Barry Glendenning to say, "How did you manage that?" And I said, "You can stuff your Football Supporters Association winning 10 trophies on the trot, pal. I've got a photograph with Sophie Ellis Baxter. You can stuff that."
Finally, we've beaten them at something.
Yes.
I think next year at the Football Supporters Association Awards, when we lose again, we gate crash the stage. We jump on stage anyway with a giant photograph of you and Sophie Ellis Baxter, and we just run around Jarvis Cocker style, waving our bums and flashing that photograph, and people say, "Yeah, those 2 old blokes, they're the real winners in this." It's Newsday, Kieran. We're having to record this quite late on Tuesday evening for various reasons, and a story that's just broken is one that will set hearts a-breaking in your adopted hometown of Liverpool, Kieran.
That's right. Liverpool have confirmed that Mohamed Salah is going to leave the club in the summer of 2026. Now, there was fear 12 months ago that Trent Alexander-Arnold, Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah, all of whom had contracts due to expire at the end of 2025, were all going to leave. It's Liverpool's standard policy to only offer players who have normally reached sort of the age of 32, 33, to only offer them a 1-year contract. The reason for that is that Liverpool are a Moneyball team when it comes to doing player research, and I've had from the secret copite a suggestion that they are so forensic in their approach that they will often identify that a player can go into quite a steep decline in terms of their outputs. And if that player had signed a 2 or 3 year contract, especially on pretty good terms, what Liverpool didn't want to be is on the hook for that second or that third year, where the player's earning a lot of money and is not making a contribution. But such is the high esteem with which Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah are held at the club. I think they both managed to secure a 2-year deal. But it's been fairly evident that relations between Mo Salah and certain people at Liverpool haven't been great. Yeah, there's been 1 or 2 sort of snarky comments made, and his output has been below expectations in terms of. Having said that, when Brighton played there in the FA Cup, he just ran us ragged.
I mean, he's still a fantastic player. I would suggest trying to crowdfund a move to Selhurst Park, but Ali would just point out that I'd be really enthusiastic for 3 days, set it all up, never forget I'd done it. Wonder why people were sending me 30 odd quid every 2 weeks, and then say to Palace, is 97 quid enough to lure Mo Salah to Palace? Unfortunately, he probably will still get some stick from Liverpool fans, won't he? Because they don't like people leaving. Right.
I think the relationship between the fan base and the player has been
Corroded?
Returned to good. Yeah. Well, I think it's returned to better things than when he was suggesting he was leaving before Christmas when he went to the African Cup of Nations. There was bad feeling, but certainly from Liverpool fans that I've spoken to, he's been there for 9 years. I always say, just think about the memories. It's like all relationships. You can focus on 1 or 2 bad memories, but actually, if you had a 9-year relationship, you must have had some pretty fantastic ones as well.
Oh, his highlights video would be incredible. Incredible. Now, this next story, Kieran, indicates to me that the Premier League have indeed been listening to you on the pod. Or it's possible that Nick DeMarco has a pod and they've been listening to him. I don't know, because they're introducing their new spending rules next season, but they're already making a few tweaks, Kieran, a few tweaks, shall we say.
Yes, and by the way, Nick DeMarco's Sports Law podcast is an absolutely fantastic listen, and for anybody that's interested in the business side of the game, I would thoroughly recommend it.
Kieran, why it didn't occur to me that Nick had a pod, I don't know. I imagine there's roughly 40,000 people listening to this now. 35,000 people saying, hurry up, I've got to do my own podcast in 10 minutes. Everyone's got it. But of course, I'm fully aware that Nick DeMarco has a pod. Now I am anyway. And it's very good. I can highly recommend it.
Absolutely. Yes, when the Premier League announced that PSR is yesterday's cost control measure, and we're now Team SCR, squad cost ratio. It was announced with a bit of a fanfare, but what didn't really come out too much was it wasn't particularly popular in the sense that it was a bare majority in terms of the 2/3. So it's 14 votes in favour and 6 votes against. And we both support clubs that were opposed to SCR. Now, the clubs, it was Brighton, Bournemouth, Palace, Brentford, Fulham and Leeds, I think, were the clubs who voted against. And those clubs said that they felt that their business model, which involved selling players and involved not spending money unless they had to, was being discriminated against. For people not familiar with SCI, I've put it in the simplest form. For every £100 that the club generates from ticket sales, from broadcast rights, from the commercial deals, you can spend 85 £85 on player costs. And if you spent less than that, that was fine, nothing wrong with it. If you spent more than that, you had to pay a fine up to 115%, and then beyond that you get a 6-point deduction. But what these clubs have pointed out is, well, that's not actually encouraging what you might call prudent behaviour. And the noises which are coming out are along the lines of, let's say that you only spend 75 pence in the pound on your player costs. You can now roll over that amount to the following season and not be penalised for it. So that does mean that, let's say that a club owner decides, I'm going to be fairly cautious for a year or two, and you can effectively build up and bank these savings. And then perhaps in year 3 or year 4, you can go on, and it has to be said, this is the appropriate word, you can go on a splurge and take things from there. So it's not a radical change. I think it's sort of a concession to the middle classes who are opposed to these particular rules, and you can see the benefits in it from their point of view. The cynic in me And there's only, and you've known me a long time, Kevin. There's a little bit of me, only a little bit of me as a cynic, took the view that the reason why these clubs were opposed to SCR was more to do with the fact that under the PSR rules, they had a competitive advantage over clubs that had just been promoted. So if we go back to the Nottingham Forest points deduction, Nottingham Forest were only allowed to lose £61 million under PSR in their first season in the Premier League, whereas Brighton and Palace and Bournemouth and so on, those clubs that had been there for a few years, were allowed to lose 105. So therefore those clubs had an advantage. And the biggest fear of those clubs is relegation. So what does this allow those clubs to do? It means that potentially they can now get another away advantage over the clubs just promoted from the Championship, because if Brighton, Bournemouth, Palace, whatever it's going to be, Brentford, if they do spend that 75 pence, they can now spend an extra 10 in a year in which clubs are promoted who they might say, well, they look actually quite tasty, they could be a threat. So that's my observation, of which I have absolutely nothing to back it up apart from my own cynicism.
Oh, well, welcome to my world, Kieran. The amount of observations and opinions I give with absolutely nothing to back it up. I've managed to blag my way through for about 40 years in this industry, Kieran. You say I know you, Kieran, but you're a man of mystery. Still waters run deep, so I don't know if anyone truly knows Maguire.
Company's House does.
Company's House does. There was a look in Sophie Ellis-Bextor's eyes the other day that made me think right from the start, she knew you straight away. I'm just looking forward to the next 2 years, Kim, because if the Premier League are already finding a getaway around their own rules, we know that our listeners are going to spend the next 3 years emailing us more and more elaborate, not reach arounds, is it? Get arounds. I keep saying reach around. That's you and Viz. That is. So I look forward to the imaginative and mysterious ways that our fans. I'm sure some of them are money laundering. I'm sure that's one of those tendencies things. And we've got a couple of stories this week, Kieran, about YouTube broadcasts, and they're at opposite ends of the football scale. And the first one is a slightly odd one from FIFA, Kieran. Yes, this is bizarre. FIFA have decided that the first 10 minutes of the FIFA World Cup 2026 matches are going to be broadcast over YouTube. Why? Yeah. I don't know. Who's going to? If you're a football fan, you're going to be tuned in. Yeah. And given that the vast majority of countries where the FIFA World Cup's being broadcast are on sort of free to air rather than satellite broadcasters, I can't see the appeal. But I guess from FIFA's point of view, there's no downside. They will say that they will be trying to reach the kids using a vehicle which other people, other demographics use, that the likes of you or I, we will be strapped into BBC and ITV regardless of the match. We will be watching them all. And perhaps they think that by making this available on YouTube, there will be people who are flicking through their YouTube channels, go, oh look, World Cup match has just started, watch it for the first 10 minutes, oh this looks a bit tasty, and then we'll go and watch it on terrestrial television or their satellite dish or whatever means that they use. So it's an odd one. Yeah. I think it is indicative, certainly when I talk to some people in broadcasting, they say that YouTube is now sort of, to a large extent, one of the biggest outputs there in terms of viewing figures. And it's a bit like podcasting. You can go very niche in terms of what you choose to consume. And perhaps FIFA feel that they don't want to miss out. And they might say, let's take a look at the viewing figures. If the viewing figures are high, then could this be used as a negotiation chip for future international football matches, which are currently going to the highest bidder? And here we do see the likes of Sky and the other broadcasters be willing to pay. That they've decided not to go down that route historically for the Euros and the FIFA World Cup itself. I'm not sure I will be glued to all the games, Kieran. I believe all three of Scotland's group games on at 2:00 in the morning. Yes. So it'll be exactly like the Ashes in Australia. I'll talk a good fight, and I'll get to about 11:30, and I'll see 2 overs bowled, and I'm asleep. I can't do it. I find this strange, Kieran. I assumed when I heard this story that it was a sort of model some podcasts use, not us. The sort of thing where you get the first 10 minutes free, and if you like the sound of it, you can pay a £5 or whatever it is and carry on listening to the rest of the podcast. So I assumed that this is what FIFA were doing. So you can, if you're out and about, you can watch 10 minutes on YouTube. If it's a brilliant game, if it's already 2 after 10 minutes, you go, well, I'll pay a bit of money and watch the rest of it. But it seems an odd one if what they're doing is driving people towards terrestrial TV. Because you kind of think the only people watching it on YouTube will be on the train home or walking, but they won't be watching it on YouTube. They'll be watching the terrestrial TV on their phone anyway. It's all a bit
exactly. Yeah, trying to work out who the target market is for me is a bit of a conundrum.
Yeah,
because even the youth of today have heard of BBC One and ITV.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't watch them, but they've heard of them. They're aware they exist. I mean, the trouble is, we talk about cynicism, Kieran. FIFA have made us so cynical. Your automatic reaction is, how much money are they making out of this? Because we know they're not doing it for the good of the world, are they?
Yep.
I shall carry on because you've just had another mouthful of sausage roll.
I have indeed, yes.
Now, in all the furore, shall we say, over the giant Chelsea fine from the Premier League, we kind of missed the fine from Leeds United for the Premier League.
Yes. The Premier League, is it £500,000?
It is indeed.
It's £500,000 fine, and this is for delaying kickoffs. Now, you might say, well, that seems a bit odd because there's lots of delays in football, part of which is self-inflicted through the introduction of VAR and so on. But this, I think, comes under sort of the broader heading of sporting integrity. And I was listening to one former player who was talking about this, and he says, yeah, we look at it through a financial lens, but he says, you've got to look at it through a footballer's lens. If a football club delays coming out after half-time or delays the kickoff, you've got 11 opposing players who've normally taken up broadly their positions on the pitch, and they are not warming themselves. They are doing very little. So therefore, if that increases the chance of a muscle tear, if that increases the chance of them being mentally have slowed down for a few seconds, then I hate this phrase, marginal gains would suggest that taking such an approach does have a benefit. Now Leeds United might say, well, that's bunkum, and simply that the manager was given an impassioned half-time speech and didn't follow the clock, but. There are limits to half-time for both sides because it's to make sure that one side doesn't get an advantage over the other. And this is not a single time that this has. This is multiple offences which have led to the charge and the fine because it's involved 9 matches. So it clearly is some form of deliberate strategy. And quite often you will get somebody who's arrived at the club trying to make an impression for themselves, and they go to a management or coach meeting. They said, "Have you thought about this one? Let's make sure that we take an extra 2 minutes at the start of the second half for each match, and that means that the opposing limbs, the limbs of opposing players, will be that much cooler. And based on my statistics, and they'll flash up a chart or a PowerPoint, that means that their capacity drops by 3%, and we think that we can turn over on this." And therefore the club says, okay, well, let's give it a try, and they get fined.
Well, I mean, 2 things. Given their position in the table, it's not a spectacular success, this policy, is it? To be perfectly honest. I mean, it's working to an extent. They probably will stay up. The other thing is these days, I mean, if you're playing Chelsea, you have to get out early to stop the buggers doing a huddle in your centre circle.
Well, respecting the ball, Kevin. That's what it is. It's respecting the ball.
I do it. You know me and my illogical dislikes. I don't like the huddle, and the reason I don't like the huddle, it looks too much like a rugby scrum. It's just it's the wrong. What
you wouldn't do it on Hackney Marshes, would you?
Not without getting a kick in. No, of course
exactly.
But also, what is it you forgot to say that you didn't say in the dressing room? You've been in there for an hour.
Yeah, I know.
Say it in there. Because it's like kissing a badge. Fans are not full of it. Fans are going, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what, those Palace players, they really want to win, don't they? Look at the way they're huddling together against the wind and the rain and the cold. Kieran, this next story, it's about former Bury owner Steve Dale, and it's, Schadenfreude is not something I particularly enjoy. Hats off to the Germans for making that word up. Hats off to the Germans for making my new favourite word. The Germans have come up with one of those brilliant compound nouns.
Compound nines.
Compound
I like
nines.
it.
What band they were? The compound nines. They were a band of accountants, I believe. Are they not?
Yes.
Yeah. The Germans have come up with a word for the mild disappointment when a tweet doesn't get as many responses as you thought it would do. But this is a story about former Bury owner Steve Dale. Kieran, fill your boots.
Yes. He has been charged with fraud and 6 other offences. Anybody that had any observations of Steve Dale, he was... Some people, it takes a time to dislike. Steve Dale isn't one of those. His comments that he didn't even know that Bury Football Club had a football club, his immediate behaviour on arriving at the club of effectively turning off the heat for the showers, having and fair play to both the manager and the players. Who people forget that Bury were promoted that year. They were then demoted for the failure to do all these things, and it shows that level of togetherness and community that exists within the dressing room, and also to all those fantastic Bury players and fans that made sure that the apprentices were getting food, because they weren't being paid at all. There was pretty horrendous what was taking place. My view of Steve Dale is, having seen the companies which he had previously owned, he was a bottom feeder. Now, having worked in the world of insolvency, I'm aware of people such as Steve Dale, and they serve a surface. They serve a purpose within the corporate world, in the sense that they do buy companies that nobody else is willing to touch. Now, most of the time they just trash them and sell them off in parts and try to make a few quid on the flip and so on. I didn't see any of that from him. He was just a vulture. Saw an opportunity. That opportunity was denied to him because he underestimated the strength of feeling and thought within the town itself. So I'm not saying I'm particularly surprised, and I look forward to monitoring this case with a lot of interest. I've added to my very, very long list of Google alerts Steve Dale fraud, and will be following this story up with enthusiasm. But the trouble with fraud charges is they take a lot of time before they come to court, because you've got to gather the evidence. And secondly, a lot of them do collapse as well. But we wish the DPP, whatever they call themselves these days, the best of this. I don't want to prejudge anything.
You do, but
I do.
I take it these charges are not football related. These are outside of the game.
No. These are external. And somebody has very kindly put up a picture on social media, Steve Dale's house. Don't give the address, but should we say it's not small.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
This episode is brought to you by Palmolive. Family time isn't just the big moments. It's weeknight dinners, sitting around the table, everyone talking all at once. So when the plates are empty and the sink is full, use Palmolive Ultra. Palmolive's most powerful formula removes up to 99.9% of grease, leaving your dishes sparkling clean. And the new convenient pump makes cleaning even easier, so you can spend less time tackling dishes and more time together. Shop now at palmolive.com.
I don't normally do this, Kieran, but for this next story about Milwall, I'm going to do a little bit of little bit of scene setting. So if you can imagine a cheesy Hammond organ, if you can imagine the whiff of cockles and whelks in the air, imagine the hot tang of salt and vinegar on that massive chip they have on their shoulders. And as we go into let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em come, let 'em all come down to the den. And it looks like, Kieran, they will be coming down to the den for quite some time now.
That's right. Yes, Milwall have secured a 999-year lease on the den, and I think this is fantastic news for the club because it does give them security. It allows them to develop the stadium. It allows them to put money into those areas. And I appreciate, as a Palace fan, you're not overly keen on Milwall, but at the same time, you're aware of the issues of social deprivation and community issues that exist around that area, and the club do an awful lot of good work in very challenging circumstances. So, on behalf of my uncle Terry, whichever lay-by he is currently residing under, he will be extremely pleased by this news as well. And it does mean that the club can go forward. They're having a pretty good season as well.
Yeah.
They could be in the Premier League next season, so it'll give you the opportunity to listen to their dulcet tones at first hand.
If West Ham stay up and Millwall go up, that'll have to be the first game ever to kick off before Wetherspoons opens, won't it? That'll have to be a 7 a.m. kick. I don't know why I talk about Millwall as though I'm David Attenborough describing a species of strange. It's literally 5 stops from me on the train to London Bridge. I could be at their ground in 25 minutes, essentially. But this is just, perhaps could you explain a little bit why, Kieran, securing this lease makes life easier for them? Does it make it easier for them to get loans? Does it just make it easier in general? Or is it just a kind of security blanket, if you like?
Well, there have been disputes between I think the council as to what was going to happen with the stadium going forwards. But also, if the club wants to invest, and the Berylson family have been very supportive of Millwall since they first acquired it, and the tragic death of John Berylson a couple of years, they continue to provide financial support. If the club want to invest more money in the stadium, and you've only got a 10-year lease remaining, who's going to lend you money when you might not be able to use or able to occupy? So it does give a degree of certainty for the club going forwards in terms of what they can invest in as far as the infrastructure and the real estate around there is concerned. So that's why I think it's really good news for Millwall and their fans.
We talk about Norwich City, Kieran, normally with a degree of praise. It's a club we both like and have spoken of with some admiration recently about the financial side of affairs. So this story is an unfortunate one. Yes,
Norwich City and have been named and shamed, I think it is fair to say, by the UK government. Now, what the UK government does is, first of all, it sets for international listeners, we have a minimum wage system here in the UK. To prevent people, especially young people, being exploited too much as far as their remuneration is concerned. And if you fail to pay that level, then potentially HMRC, the tax authorities and the investigating authorities, if they discover that, then they will put that out into the public domain. So about 5 or 6 days ago, the UK government put out a long list of companies all over the UK who have failed to pay the minimum wage, and this includes Norwich City Football Club. Now, the club will sort of put out, and I'm very surprised because I've always held Norwich in very high regard. I think the club will try to put along this. It was a technical error in the sense that sometimes clubs will provide members of staff with food and drink or uniforms and so on, and if that's been deducted from their wages, which in my view it shouldn't, by the way, then that's how technically they've ended up with less money. But even so, we are talking about a football club which has very wealthy owners and has some very wealthy employees as well. And I'm firmly of the belief that you look after those who need the most looking after, and that includes your least paid members of employment.
Oh, it's no wonder Donald Trump doesn't like you, Kieran. It's one of those stories that disappoints fans, though. Because we all want to defend our clubs and protect our club's reputation, but it's also one of those stories that we talk about quite often, where a minimal saving leads to quite a lot of bad PR, really. And it's the amount it will spend to pay those staff the minimum wage, which, as you say, is the least they deserve, isn't a lot in the scheme of things. But it takes a while to get over this sort of reputation. For 10 years' time, there will be people go, yeah, Norwich, the club, we don't pay minimum wage.
That's right. And on the day when Norwich have put out a very waspish, a very waspish piece of social media to say that anybody's welcome to hire a room or conferencing facilities at Carrow Road, but we do have terms and conditions, which is a dig at Ipswich Town, who don't appear to have checked their own terms and conditions, and it looks like their stadium is being used for some form of political benefit by a party, which I can't be asked mentioning.
Oh dear. We did promise, Kieran, another YouTube story at a different end of the scale to FIFA, and it's at Dagenham and Redbridge, and this again is a very interesting one in its own way, Kieran.
Yes, we should have mentioned this when this happened, but KSI, who is a content provider as far as YouTuber is concerned, and is immensely popular and successful. He's found a niche audience, he's found a niche product, and I always give people credit for that. And he plays the part of KSI, very, very well. He bought into Dagenham and Redbridge a few weeks ago, and they are now going to broadcast the matches on his YouTube channel. So they will have a ready-made audience. Now, I would imagine that he will be providing some content alongside this, either a watch-along, or providing live commentary or interviewing himself at half-time, in order to keep that traditional audience of his KSI channel engaged and entertained. But it does show that thinking outside the box can be really beneficial for football clubs. It can do Dagenham and Redbridge, in my view, nothing but good. Because in exactly the same way as we saw with Rob and Ryan at Wrexham, it gives you access to people who otherwise wouldn't necessarily even be aware of your existence. I've got testament from when I teach in the United States, the number of Wrexham football shirts that I see just wandering around, not the big cities. I tend to teach in the smaller ones. Is absolutely astounding. So I'd be fascinated to see the viewing figures for this, but I think this could be a winner.
You say niche, Kieran, but I think he's got around 11 million followers, which is potentially a massive audience. And I believe Andy Carroll was their manager now. I believe he appointed Andy Carroll as their manager.
Right, so. He certainly went to play because when Spencer Gore of Chelmsford City,
that's right, yeah,
he was about to sign Andy Carroll at the time for Chelmsford City, and they were gazumped, I think is the technical phrase, by Dagenham and Redbridge. And Andy, appreciate he's been in the news for a variety of reasons recently. Yeah. He just wants to play football. Yeah. Just wants to, and I admire that in any professional.
Well, not in professional accountants, Kieran, surely.
Well, no, true.
So, yeah. What I find odd about this story, Kieran, we were at Wembley for the Carabao Cup final on Sunday, and I bumped into Phil Alexander, the boss of the National League now, on the way out. And I know Phil he was CEO at Palace for 20 years. And I was about to ask him this question myself, except he obviously had to hop into a car and I had to limp to a tube train. But the National League have their own broadcast partner in DAZN. I believe the National League are more than happy for Dagenham and Redbridge to do this, and as you say, it's thinking outside the box, it's a progressive idea, but one wonders what DAZN will be thinking about this project.
Well, I think DAZN will still manage to piggyback on the success of here, because they will be choosing Dagenham and Redbridge for a few more games. So it could be that if KSI broadcasts all of the matches apart from those which are chosen by DAZN, then everybody wins. So I don't see this as being a problem, and it increases the profile of the National League, which again will delight DAZN in its own right as a broadcast partner.
Okay. Some better news for Morecambe, Kieran. We haven't said that for a while.
Yes, Morecambe were under a transfer embargo a few weeks ago, because whilst they have new owners in Punjab Warriors, there appears to be an outstanding issue with the Bond Group, who are sort of the Dick Dastardly of Morecambe. In my view, they have been pretty appalling owners. And if you talk to fans of Worcester Warriors rugby club, who was effectively destroyed by the people connected to the Bond Group, you'll understand why. And nobody connected to Morecambe as a positive word to say. But the Bond Group said, "Oh, we've been shortchanged. We've not been given all of the money." And it looks as if the National League initially sided with the Bond Group, probably due to legal pressure. And one would imagine that the new owners have now managed to present enough compelling evidence to defend their position for the National League to feel, well, you're not doing anything which is too untoward, and therefore we will release the transfer embargo. Now, a transfer embargo in March is not an issue. I think it's symbolic more than anything else. But whilst I think neither party has covered themselves in glory as far as their ownership is concerned, and we when we were at the Football Supporters Awards, Football Supporters Association Awards, we had a long chat with people from Morecambe, and I think there was a sense of disappointment with the new owners. But when it comes to least bad, they are not as bad as the Bond Group.
Yeah, you had a long chat with them. I was sulking because we lost again, basically. Yeah, but Barry Glendenning hasn't had his photograph taken with Sophie Ellis-Bextor, has he? Exactly.
He who laughs last, hey.
Yeah, he who laughs last is slow. As Phil Jupitus used to say, I've got a cartoon saying exactly those words. I need to find out who Max Rushton's favourite pop star is, and then I'll have a photograph taken with whoever that is, and then we'll see who's winning in life. Then, Kieran. John Textor is really out of the news, Kieran. And
Indeed.
The way I'm feeling about him, it's really good, which is illustrated by this story.
Yes, his ability to spin plates and then drop plates is becoming an increasingly concern. So it looks like they signed Brazilian Igor Jesus for a substantial amount of money, and the former club of Jesus, which is that can't be Botafogo, can it? Is saying that it is owed $63 million, and therefore they have put in a legal claim. Leone, who's trying to work out what Textor's relationship is with Leone, is difficult, because has he been evicted there? If you listen to him, he still has some form of management there. I think it's Michelle Kang has been put in as well. The one thing you never get is clarity and transparency. And any conversation with Textor, you are left more confused than when the conversation started.
My day kicks off with a refreshing Celsius energy drink, then straight to the gym. Pre-K pickup, back home to meal prep. Time for my fire station shift. One more Celsius, gotta keep the lights on. When the 3-alarm hits, I'm ready. Celsius. Live, fit, go. Grab a cold, refreshing Celsius at your local retailer or locate now at Celsius.com.
Your little one grew 3 inches overnight. Adorable. Also, expensive. Sell their pint-sized pieces on Depop and list them in minutes with no selling fees. Because somewhere, a dad refuses to pay full price for the clothes his kids will outgrow tomorrow. And he's ready to buy your son's entire wardrobe right now. Consider your future growth spurt budget secured. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste. Payment processing fees and boosting fees still apply. See website for details.
There are many Palace WhatsApp groups dedicated to the ins and outs of Eagle Holdings. It's very difficult to follow. The thing is, Kieran, we talk all the time about him spinning plates and dropping plates, but he seems to have this extraordinary ability to catch them just before they hit the floor. Because, like I say, not a week goes by without another story of financial disaster for him, but he manages to come up smiling every time.
Yes, he's done well to date that things haven't got any more serious. I think it's a classic case of moving the plates around and somehow keeping things above water. But the numbers involved seem to be increasing on a regular basis, and that is it does make you wonder: is eventually somebody going to put in something which is going to be a proper spoke between the wheels?
Yeah, I mean, it's strange. Unlike Steve Dale, who I have no good feelings towards whatsoever, I bear Textor no ill will, because he's, by all accounts,
he's charming.
By all accounts, a very nice man, very generous, very supportive of the Palace for life. So, it just baffles me that he just seems to be able to get away with this somehow. But anyway, this last story is a fascinating one about Erling Haaland, Kieran.
Yes, is it Eberici Eze who plays chess?
Yeah.
And I think Raheem Sterling does, and quite a few other England players. Well, as somebody, I never got far further than table 6 of the school chess team, but I still got to table 6, which I'll take. I'll take as a bonus. Erling Haaland has invested in a new World Chess Championship tour.
Yeah,
Kevin, tour. Now, people were saying, watching other people play chess, surely that's not something that anybody would want to do. Well, chess is, if you go online, the number of chess apps, the number of chess tournaments, you take your rankings very seriously, and so on. It is a brilliant sport for stretching the mind. So he's clearly a supporter himself, and he just says it's a very Norwegian thing to do.
Yeah.
Which I guess it is. I think he should also consider investing in a football finance podcast. I think that will stretch his mind as well, and people might be open to offers.
Yeah, there must be one out there that he could invest. It's not just your mind that chess can stretch, Kieran, as we discovered in last year's World Championships, when the chap was accused of cheating because he had a love egg inserted into his anus.
Yes.
Which buzzed. I'm not sure the technicalities, but somebody buzzed it every time a knight moved.
Trying to work out the Morse code on that one would be very difficult.
Also, his opponent must have kept saying, "Why does he keep grinning?" It's very off-putting. I used to love chess right up to the moment I taught Ed to play it when he was 5. And he was starting beating me every night. I still like the idea of chess. It's one of those things you get. I'm gonna get better at chess, and then you get the old board out again. And you go, hang on a second, which one does the king go on?
Yes, yeah.
I'm glad you're at a school chess club, Kieran. It just again confirms.
It doesn't reinforce any stereotypes, does that?
I'm sure table 6 was very good, but I don't know how many tables you had to start with.
We had 6. I was.
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
We had. I mean, Tank, who was captain of the school chess team, he went on to be. He's a professor of astrophysics at Cambridge. He was a good chess player.
Is he, Professor Tank?
Yeah.
I was about to say that sounds very Grange Hill, doesn't it? The school chess captain's called Tank. Until you say he went on to become a professor of astrophysics. He must get bored with the rocket science jokes.
Exactly.
It's not rocket science. That's what my godson keeps saying. It's not rocket science. It's astrophysics. Oh, it's all right. Okay. Thanks to everyone who has joined the Price of Football Club. If you'd like to join the club too and get every episode a day earlier than everyone else, ad-free listening and invite to our monthly Q&A sessions, bonus episodes and more, then go to our website, priceoffootball.com. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter, you can find us on YouTube, and if you'd like to buy one of our books, you can find all the details back on that same website, priceoffootball.com. We'll be back next Tuesday with our regular questions pod. It's international break, Kieran, so there's not much to look forward to, but in the meantime I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell.
Well, thank you as always for all of the engagement and also for all of those people that came in and had a chat with us at Wembley on Sunday who were fans of the show. It was very humbling and flattering, and we're so glad that you enjoyed. Members of the club, you will have had your bonus episode to listen to as well, with some more questions, and you don't have to wait 18 months for me to answer them as well, which can be beneficial. And of course our live monthly interactions as well, which are always a bit of a hoot. But there's another way you can support the show, and that's not going to cost you a bean, or even a sausage roll and bean pie, which I've just been eating during the show. Which why is Maguire thinking deeply about this? No, he's trying to finish off a mouthful of his tea. There's another way you can support the show, and that's to give us 30 seconds of your time. Pop on your app, just give us a review. Doesn't matter what you say. You could even say you would rather the show presented by Barry Glendenning and Sophie Ellis-Bextor, because, Barry, that's not going to happen. And therefore, you're not going to even get your photograph taken with her.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The Price of Football. The Price of Football.
Baseball is back, and the first pitch is on Netflix. The New York Yankees, led by 7-time All-Star Aaron Judge, head to the San Francisco Bay to take on Rafael Devers' San Francisco Giants. This season kicks off with one exclusive opening night game. Watch MLB Opening Night, the New York Yankees versus the San Francisco Giants, live on Netflix. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.